darse la vuelta, darse la vuelta, darse la vuelta. So this is the letter V, okay? It looks like a U, but it's a letter V. But remember, the V sound in Spanish is similar to the B as in bell sound in English. So remember that, darse la vuelta, darse la vuelta. What does this mean? What does this mean? Let's see. This is a very common phrase, and the meaning is to turn around. To turn around, literally, okay? Darse la vuelta. Remember guys, that se here indicates that you can use reflexive pronouns with this phrase or with this verb. Dar is a common verb that means to give, you know. Dame las llaves, give me the keys. Dale un refresco al cliente, give a soda to the customer, for example. You know, dar, you know, literally you're giving. Of course, it can work in different situations. Dar also can work with other phrases. Okay, so just like in this case, we're not talking about giving anything. We're talking about turning around, which is really interesting. The basic meaning changes completely here. Okay, so remember, you can use reflexive pronouns. Me, te, se. Okay, so remember, those are very useful. They're everywhere in Spanish. And then we have la, the, okay, la, vuelta has a few meanings, but it means turn, okay? For example, da una vuelta a la derecha, take a right turn. Okay, vuelta, turn. And also it can mean trip. Okay, it can mean in certain situations, vuelta can mean trip. It can refer to a lap, referring to a lap in a race, for example. Also it can mean a few other things, but those things that I told you are the most common meanings of vuelta. Okay, vuelta. And in this situation, we are not talking about, you know, a lap or a turn. We're talking about just, you know, when you turn around because you need to look behind you, for example. So we're talking specifically about that. How interesting. Darse la vuelta. Now, let's learn how to use this phrase in a sentence. Okay? The first example is, ella se dio la vuelta. Ella se dio la vuelta cuando oyó su nombre. Ella se dio la vuelta cuando oyó su nombre. Okay? What does this mean? This means she turned around when she heard her name. Yeah, that happens, right? Someone says, hey, Maria, hey, Miguel. And you're like, who is it? Who is it? And then you have to turn around to see who was calling your name. So that in that particular situation, darse la vuelta, you're pretty much describing what's going on, which is pretty helpful for sure. So let's break this down and let's see how this sentence works. Ella means she. Okay, you don't have to say ella in this situation unless you want to be specific. You can say se dio la vuelta cuando oyó su nombre. Okay, and it's perfectly fine. But remember, personal pronouns are not said all the time in Spanish, but they're really helpful if you want to specify. That's pretty much if you need to be specific, that's pretty much when you need personal pronouns. Ella means she. Se dio la vuelta. We have the phrase that we're learning right here. Now we can see the reflexive pronoun first. Remember, reflexive pronouns can go before verbs as well. Before, and also can be part, like you can attach it to the verb. Darse, darle, dame. Okay, dale. Okay, so you can attach reflexive pronouns to verbs, and also they can go before the verb. And when that happens, it has to be separate. It's like a separate word. Okay, ella se. We have se here, up here, and we have se right here. We need to use reflexive pronouns when using this phrase. Ella se dio. This is the verb dar, conjugated for ella. Okay, ella. And it's also present tense, past tense. La vuelta, this part over here, la vuelta doesn't change. So this thing right here, the two words here, they don't change. They stay the same. Here, this, on the other hand, you need to pay attention because you need to conjugate the verb if necessary, and also you need to have a reflexive pronoun. Okay, ella se dio la vuelta cuando. Oh, by the way, ella se dio la vuelta means she turned around. Okay, cuando means when. Sometimes you will see an accent mark on top of the letter A, but that happens when cuando is in a question. Okay, so ¿cuándo vienes? When you ask ¿cuándo vienes? When are you coming? That cuando needs an accent mark. Okay, so if you need to place cuando in a question, you need to add an accent mark. Okay, cuando means when. Oyó, ella oyó, ella oyó. We don't need to repeat ella here. So we need oyó because that's the action, that's the verb. And oyó comes from the verb oír. Okay, you can also use here escuchar, which also means to hear. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Oyó means she heard. Okay, oyó can also mean he heard or you heard, you formal and singular. Okay, but in this situation we already know we're talking about ella. Okay, so that's why this oyó means she heard. Su, her. Su can mean her or his. Okay, so it can mean that. Nombre means name. Okay, nombre. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? What's your name? Okay. Ella se dio la vuelta cuando oyó su nombre. She turned around when she heard her name. Also, another helpful verb if you want to say the same thing, because there's different ways to say turn around in Spanish. This is a very common one, but also the verb voltear. Let me just put it here. Voltear means to turn around as well. So you could say, ella se volteó. In this situation, we can add se because it's very likely that you will need a reflexive pronoun as well. Se volteó. Ella se volteó. Oops. Se volteó. Cuando oyó su nombre. Okay, let me just do this. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Oops, I made a mistake here. Volteó. Okay, ella se volteó cuando oyó su nombre. Okay, and if you want to use the verb escuchar, escuchó su nombre. Ella se volteó cuando escuchó su nombre. Okay, so it's interesting how there's different ways to say pretty much the same thing. You can use different verbs that mean something similar, or sometimes they mean the same thing. But we're learning about darse la vuelta. Darse la vuelta. Okay, so darse la vuelta means to turn around. Now let's look at another example using the same phrase. Okay. Nos dimos la vuelta porque olvidamos algo en casa. Nos dimos la vuelta porque olvidamos algo en casa. What does this mean? This means we turned around because we forgot something at home. So that is the literal translation. You're just saying that they had, or these guys had to turn around literally because they forgot something at home. Okay, nos dimos la vuelta porque olvidamos algo en casa. So this is a very simple sentence, but let's break it down. Let's see how it works. Let's see where the phrase is. The phrase we're learning, where is it? Okay, so it's right at the beginning. Nos dimos la vuelta. Nos dimos la vuelta. You could say nosotros nos dimos la vuelta. Nosotros means we in Spanish, but nosotros is a personal pronoun. We don't say them all the time, but we use reflexive pronouns all the time. So nos is necessary here. So nos is pretty much it's a reflexive pronoun. And remember, we need one. So we place them, or we placed it before the verb dar. So nos, and then we have the verb dar conjugated. Okay, nos dimos, nos dimos. Then we have the rest of the phrase, la vuelta, porque that means we turned around. By the way, past tense, dimos, nos dimos, la vuelta, we turned around. Porque means because. Olvidamos, nosotros olvidamos. We don't need nosotros, we need olvidamos, and that means we forgot. We forgot, okay? Algo means something. And the term en casa means at home. You could say en la casa, okay? En la casa, you can say that. But also, another common term to say at home is just en casa. ¿En dónde estás? En casa, at home. Okay, so remember that it's a little detail, but it's a common thing to do in Spanish. We have terms, we have phrases that mean something. So if you see this and you're like, oh, I thought I needed to say en la casa, that's correct. You can say that, en la casa. But also, if you want to say at home just as a term, you can also say en casa, en la casa. So those two terms work when saying at home. So that's interesting, very interesting. Remember, darse la vuelta means to turn around, and it's a common, very, very common Spanish phrase.